The frontal lobe is designed to create repetitiveness. So the frontal lobe is a part of the brain that creates repetition. But we use the frontal lobe for, oh my God, I'm so worried, for fear, anxiety, depression. When you chant and you are in that wave of energy, you're using the frontal lobe for what it was designed to stay in constant connection with the universe. Everybody understand that? So the frontal lobe is designed to create a consistent union between ourselves and the universe. The frontal lobe was never designed to create addictive, repetitive, destructive, fearful, anxiety-ridden, repetitive patterns of behavior. From the past. So, when I get... My God, that went right in my ear. Whoa, happy little fly. He's going, oh, that's a great little home. Oh, go away. Oh, he went in my nose. Go away. I know I'm nectar, you little Go away. Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I'm a Buddha. Wrong. So... Well, no, you listen, I do this on purpose. I don't wake up and decide. It's just to wake you up. It's to understand that you need to have all these layers to you. You need to be empathetic and compassionate and strong. You have to have all these layers to you. So when you chant, and I get to a particular point where you hit that sweetness, is because you're using the frontal lobe. It's not only because you're in consciousness. You're now using the frontal lobe to sustain the consciousness. Do you understand that? And that's the magic when we're chanting and the frontal lobe. Tomorrow I'm going to get you to breathe through your frontal lobe and how to... So tomorrow we're going to basically you do something else that is going to help you move to another place. But the frontal lobe is where we can sustain awareness. So when I take a breath... and that breath goes through the frontal part of the frontal lobe. The breath, if it's prana, can cool down the frontal lobe. When breath is just a breath, the frontal lobe cannot be cooled down. But when you chant, you're cooling down the frontal lobe in its repetitive pattern, and the frontal lobe becomes what it was designed to be. So, make it good.
Oh, hey.
When you do that, first you have to go like this. It goes all the way down. Then sideways. Security, please remove her.
I found it interesting you were speaking about the reptilian brain and how consciousness comes in there.
Yes.
Have you heard about... So like I'm interested in if it's coming in through the reptilian and then we need this. I stumbled on the most amazing study that children have larger reptilian brains when they live with more terrified mothers.
Correct.
And so we have much more frontal, peaceful brains if the moment, if our young women, we immediately grab them and say, you're so beautiful. We're going to bring you to Hacienda de Los Santos. You're going to live here for 9 months. You're going to have a great time.
Are you paying?
Ask Dr. Lloyd and finally win the lottery.
Okay. I think you should just buy out the owner. So you know what you're saying is absolutely correct. That's why what you're saying is quite profound.
Yeah, I want to know.
So when you chant, you are reducing the swelling or enlargement or the repetitive nature that that the frontal lobe is not designed to do, but what it is begun to do. Instead of repeating the name of God, it repeats the name of fear. Do you understand that?
So it melts the neural.
It melts the neural pathways in the brain. That's why the chanting part is so incredibly significant, because as you chant and really move into your heart, the frontal lobe starts doing what it's meant to do when breath becomes prana, and you move into the heart when you chant. All those things are all connected. That's why I keep bringing all these little pieces. That's why when you guys just rushed into this room, it's like, what are you doing? You have to be seated in your heart. You must come into this room as a sacred temple. Otherwise, if you don't create that chemical switch within yourself, oh my God, it's going to take you 20, 30 minutes. You wasted your time. So when you sit in meditation and when you seat yourself, you must know your heart. You must find the gratitude. You must find. Do you understand that? I don't need to tell any of you the kind of suffering that you went through in other lifetimes. You don't need to know the details, but you can pretty much tell that there's still debris in this lifetime left of that, right? Of some degree to another. So when you realize where you come from and you display that gratitude or feel in the presence of the Dalai Lama. If you look at a group, if you look at someone like Dalai Lama, and it sounds like a terrible thing to say, obviously he's a very profound man. I watched an entire audience being in awe of him. He barely speaks English. He doesn't say very much. And the entire stadium leaves, goes, oh my God, it was so amazing to be in the presence of the Holy Lama. What happened? Everybody moved into their heart and their frontal lobe stopped repeating all the garbage. They all became quiet in his presence. You cool the frontal lobe, you chant, you start feeling. What happens between the neural network in your heart and the neural network in your head? It doesn't take over completely. Eventually we create a bridge from the mind into the heart. Eventually, we move from the heart into the neural pathways of the brain. We go back into the heart. We go back into the neural pathways in the brain. We go back, and eventually we realize. That's why I said every drop in which you bring to the surface is incredibly significant and incredibly important, because every drop in which you bring to your meditation, when you walk into this room and you find true compassion and empathy, and you seed your mind. Why am I encouraging you to do that? Because I'm wanting you to create some fake emotion? Or am I trying to get you to lead a bridge from the mind to the heart? It is consciousness that isn't created out of the neural pathways in the brain. It is the neural network from the heart that brings consciousness to the table. That law is the communication of the neural network of the heart, not the brain. So when you're having a conversation and there's a lull, that literally means you've gone from a head response and all of a sudden you're allowing the neural network of, or I call it heart intelligence, but the heart intelligence comes to heart consciousness. Let's just call it that. The heart consciousness comes to the table. That's the law. The more you let that law come to the picture, into play, you're actually having this play of consciousness between the intellect and the soul is actually seated in the heart. When the Kundalini becomes completely self-realized, or we become self-realized, the soul travels from the heart through the third eye. It expands itself, goes, we become the whole world, collapses itself, goes back into the third eye, and seats itself. The seed of the soul is in the center of the heart. And the soul has a neural network that it regulates. And the consciousness of the heart requires consciousness to invoke it, to bring it to the surface. Does everybody understand that? So when you meditate and you bring yourself into that moment of gratitude, of empathy, those are the qualities of the neural network of the heart. So the heart responds to compassion, to empathy. It creates and directs consciousness. When it sees that you are bringing one drop of consciousness to the table, it responds. It immediately responds to you. Does everybody understand that? What question do you have out of that?